Today I'm going to show you how to make a Frosia, which is a traditional Sicilian way of preparing vegetables and a common item on a St. Joseph's Day table this time of year. So, that's what I'm going to do. The ingredients are the same as my grandmother taught me, but I've modified her technique a little bit to make it easier, and I'll talk about that a little bit as we go. Normally I do all these ingredients by eye, but I did measure them today so that you have a starting point and then can adjust them to taste. Okay, so traditional vegetables prepared this way would include asparagus, celery, artichoke hearts, and cauliflower. And so today I'm going to do cauliflower. It's one of our favorites. And you cook them all, you prepare them all basically the same way. And so once you learn one, you can do all of them, and then you can have several of them on your St. Joseph's table if you want. So I'm going to start out with some flour. This is about a half a cup. And to that I'm going to add some finely ground black pepper. That's a teaspoon. That's about what I measured there. My grandmother never used freshly ground black pepper. She always had the kind that comes in a can. And for this recipe, I use that because it does actually have a milder taste from being ground and canned way ahead of time. So you can use freshly ground, but if you do, you might want to use a little less. So I'm just going to mix that in. And you can see that it just barely is visible in the flour. And then the other ingredient is dried mint. Okay, now I grow and dry my own mint, but you can buy dried mint at the grocery store and mix that in as well. Okay, it's the mint that gives this its unique flavor. Okay, so I use dried mint in this, but if you want to use fresh mint, that's okay. Just know that you'll need a lot more of it. When you dry the mint, it concentrates it. So, in the summertime when I make this, I do use fresh mint, but you need considerably more than what I put in. So, here we have our flour mixture. And then we need some eggs. Okay, so I think 2 or 3 eggs should do it. So we just want to beat those. And the cauliflower. Now we want to cut this into florets, and then we're going to blanch them. Okay, so that is a little bit on the large side, so I'm going to cut that in half. So you want them about this size. If you get some smaller ones, that's fine. But this size is the size you want to be working with for the most part. Okay, like I said, my grandmother would blanch these, but she never had or used a microwave oven, and I have a microwave oven, so it's much faster and easier to just microwave blanch these. So I put them in a vented container and 5 to 6 minutes in the microwave, and they'll be ready. Okay, the cauliflower is nicely steamed. I've let it cool down a fair bit because you don't want it too hot. Got my flour and my egg. Now, my grandmother would take each individual piece of cauliflower, roll it in the flour, dip it in the egg, put it into the frying pan. I did it that way for years because that's how she taught me. But then I had an idea and I tried something different, and it's way easier. So here's what I do now. I get myself a zippy bag. And I put some of the flour in. I'm going to start with about half. And then I put the cauliflower in. Zip it up, leaving a good bit of air in there. And then gently roll it and toss it until all the cauliflower is coated with the flour and mint and pepper. So you can see that each of these is now nicely coated. Okay. So now I'm going to put the egg in. And do the same thing. Zip it up with some air and gently toss it. Until each piece is coated with egg. There. Now we're ready to fry them. Okay, now it's time to cook the Frosia. So I'm going to heat up the pan. You can use whatever skillet you want. My grandmother used cast iron. I like cast iron for a lot of things, but for this, a non-stick pan works just fine. So I'll let that get warm and put some olive oil in. You want a fair amount, cover the bottom of the pan. I move the oil around in the pan, and that's how I know when it's hot. It gets thinner as it heats up, and you can can just know by how it flows when it's hot enough. Okay, the oil looks to be hot enough. I'm going to gently toss this one more time to make sure everything's evenly coated. Spread these all evenly. Around the pan. And we've already cooked the cauliflower, so we're really just cooking this to brown them and cook the egg flour mixture. So gently and just till they start to get nicely brown. Now, if you're cooking asparagus or celery, you do the same thing, except that you put individual little clumps of them down instead of cooking them individually. So you get these little patties of clumps of asparagus or clumps of celery, and that's how you do those. And once they're sort of cooked on the one side and brown on the one side, that egg will hold them together as you gently flip them over. So that's starting to brown. So I'm just going to give them a quick toss. And that's it. There you go. Now you can serve these warm right now, or traditionally they'd be out on the St. Joseph's table and they would be room temperature, and they're just as tasty that way. They're even good left over and chilled out of the fridge.